Welcome everyone to Be Prepared. This is our application to help you study smarter so you don't have to waste your time going through all the lecture material, lecture slides, previous recordings, and you can get straight to studying the necessary material like going through slides we generate for you, flashcards and quizzes, and even a mock exam. Almost like you hit up the professor for the exam and you just got your hands on exclusive material. Let's have Vishnu introduce us to the system.
For sure. So essentially, I just logged in. I'm going to create a new project. And as Alex was exactly stating, we essentially are able to actually ingest a source from our actual desktop, such as a lecture video, as he stated. And we're able to actually transform that into a full-on audio transcript from which we're able to extract the audio. So the end result is we have a lecture video and we transform that into a mock final exam, a quiz, a flashcard set, or anything that we really want. So this is really an excellent way for students to be able to save time, for accessibility to be more open to everyone in terms of providing note-taking without anyone having to attend lectures themselves. So while we're actually waiting for the thought process, I'll just quickly talk through exactly what this does for the user. So what it does is it extracts the audio and then it transforms it into text. And then from there, we're able to actually clean the text, put it into a JSON format, and just iterate through it very cleanly, making sure that we actually have key concepts within the JSON in order to make it easier to parse through it. And finally, from there, we're able to actually render artifacts such as flashcards, quizzes, notes, slides, and even a final exam that we can use as a mock preparation tool. So that's just really an excellent way for students to be able to save time, hours upon hours spent on lectures, condensed down into something that would just take 3 minutes to generate and process all that. So while we're waiting for the HSP process, we're just going through and checking for the audio extraction, as we can see here. So if we go to the terminal, we're able to actually see that we're generating the knowledge core essentially, as we were talking about earlier. And we have a huge amount of text here, by the way, like 23,000 characters, 4,700 words, as aforementioned. And essentially, it's processing video and grabbing exactly what I was saying earlier. The actual text has been processed as we needed. So we're actually able to now generate our study notes, our practice quiz, our flashcards, presentation, and a mock exam. Let's start with the mock exam. That seems to be the flagship of this project. So essentially, it makes sure that we extract 15 MCQs, right? Also takes into account 5 short answers and 3 problem sets. This essentially allows us to have a full-on exam, but in a manner that doesn't hallucinate because of large context windows from a 2-hour lecture video. We essentially condense down into JSON format that we could really easily parse through and individually generate questions for each part. We don't have to bombard an entire exam generation, but rather clean parts of the exam generation process. And finally, we just put it all together in a LaTeX format, and we're able to actually compile that into a PDF, which is then spit it out in the front end. So it's like a huge backend pipeline. If you go to our system architecture diagram, you essentially have we have a lot of moving parts. We have our backend, an async job manager, ingestion, knowledge core, artifact models for rendering our actual artifacts. And finally, we have our output, which is then saved into the database, which is then pulled by the front end when it pulls the backend. So perfect, we have our mock exam generated. And now if you actually download the PDF, let's see what it turns out looking like. You can see Ontario Tech.
Ontario Tech, yes. And I'd love to go through this exam myself. If I was a calculus student, I would go like, wait, where's my extra practice problems? Here it is right now, coming straight from that lecture video, which I had for my ostensible or hypothetical previous class. I see that there are so many problems. And we also have the answer key.
Certainly, we also have an answer key. So this is a full-on mock exam that we can actually use and leverage. And it is an excellent resource for students to get that extra prep in and not have to actually watch an entire lecture and have to deal with generating a full-on mock exam on their own. So that's like an amazing purpose, and even on its own. But not only that, we have 4 other use cases on top of everything. So we have a presentation flashcard generator, a practice quiz generator, and a study note generator. So it might of course take a moment, but there we go. We essentially have our generation complete. Awesome. So we're able to essentially download our slides as we require. So we go ahead and go check out our downloads. We're able to see our exact slides that we generated.
It's almost like somebody took notes for me. So I don't need a note taker anymore. If I was registered with my university's accessibility service, then I might expect, hey, I need some students to take notes for me in this class, and I might pray for that. But here we have notes that might be even better than any student can do it. We also got flashcards and a practice quiz to do directly. So there's no more of that, hey, see if I can test myself. What if you don't have anybody to study with? Well, here's a solution for that. You're able to do all this studying, have the full range of accessibility, whether you can note take, whether you need to be there in the lecture yourself, without losing any proficiency in how quickly you can learn.
So on top of everything, you also even have the option to regenerate features. So for example, you're able to actually regenerate a practice quiz if you don't like the original one. As you see, we have different questions from what we were able to have. So that's basically it for our project. Thank you so much for your attention to this project.
Thanks for listening. Be extra prepared using Be Prepared.